So I'll count it off.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Just let's go.
1, 2, 3, go!
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the rehearsal room. Nick here.
Aaron's here.
We're going to take a little bit of a break from our regularly scheduled topics to kind of talk a bit about something that happened recently. As many know, as of July 22nd, 2025, a man known as John Michael Osbourne, Ozzy to everybody else, passed away. He had a very long musical career. I think anybody who's aware of the music he was a part of knows the stories. They know the background, where he comes from. So we won't get too much into that, but we wanted to kind of say thanks and goodbye to the Ozman.
Yeah.
And in our own little way here at the rehearsal room.
Just the impact he's had on our lives.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. Just, again, I'm sure like a lot of people who are listening, when you heard it, it was this weird kind of, oh my goodness, but also this was the whole back to the beginning. We kind of, you knew at some point this was coming,
Yeah.
and yet still kind of, shocking. A guy at my work actually came and found me and was like, being the resident metalhead, I guess he just assumed, hey man, did you hear Ozzy die? And I was just like, there was this kind of shot to the heart a little bit, but also kind of, but, just giant bummer for a guy who, our last episode, we talked about, how we got into music, what are the things, that inspired us. Speak of the Devil was one that really stood out for you. No Rest for the Wicked was the first one I ever heard, on top of our, mutual love of Black Sabbath, and that really solidifying our love. Here's a guy who plays an integral part in both of our musical journeys, and that just, I always loved him. We've talked about him when we talked about the kind of how a rock star should go out in that episode, and we expressed how much we cared about him and so on and so forth, and it's just, it was these guys affect your lives in certain ways. And that was a big one for me. I mean, Ozzy was, man, I can't even, there was a moment where that was all I cared about was Ozzy Osbourne, and he just, and he was such a character and when people say a one of a kind, like there truly was like nobody else like him before or after, even if people were, Alice Cooper is a character, you know what I mean? Yep. It's not who he is off stage necessarily, right. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and to just see the longevity of his career, we've talked about it before, is like, here's a guy that when we were growing up, the religious right was literally calling him the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And now he's America's dad. I can't tell you how many, God bless Ozzy and his family. Like, really? I don't remember in the 80s any God blessing him.
He put himself in so many different scenarios that made him accessible to all sorts of people.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just metalheads or like rockers or whatever, Obviously, at one point, he had the TV show, which, I didn't really watch. But I know there are generations of people that did, right? So
that's some people, that's how they discovered him. That's all they know him from.
And whether it was the Osbournes or the other one that he had, the Ozzy and Jack, Travel the World or something.
Which I only caught a couple episodes. That was actually way cooler than any of the Osbournes.
That one was kind of cool.
It was really neat to see them go around and just get to see a different side of Ozzy. That it has nothing to do with rock and roll, but his love of history and interesting shit. Yes, and just to see him with his son, it was really
with his son,
cool.
Jack. Yeah, and he made the rounds, as it were, like on radio shows, TV spots, and stuff like that. And I think that really enamored him to the public.
Oh, for sure.
Because if you had a concept of Ozzy Osbourne as just being like the drug-addled alcoholic musician,
or the Prince of Darkness,
like you weren't wrong.
Yes,
but he was also a family guy.
Yes,
a guy that really cared about his audience.
That's for sure.
He cared about the music he was a part of.
No doubt.
He loved kind of collaborating with a lot of other people.
Great sense of humor. That's one thing you hear over and over again from people.
Yeah, and in some ways, some of the things he said, whether they were in interviews or on TV or even on stage, he came across as being a little profound, I think, when he didn't intend it to be,
Dude.
There's a quote that is credited to him that I saw recently that said, "A house without a dog is like a garden without flowers." And I was
Nice.
like, yeah. I was like, dude, yeah, I can totally understand that sentiment.
Absolutely, sure.
And
being a big animal lover that he is, it
huge
totally
animal
makes
lover.
sense.
Yeah. So, the fact that he's gone, it stings, because his availability, just maybe not in our direct lives.
No.
But
I know
just
what you
being
mean.
there in the ether, it was kind of a comforting thing.
Yes, nice to know we're living in a world with Ozzy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And it's we can look into the future and say like, oh, these kids will never have another person like Ozzy, but we don't know that.
No,
we don't know that. But we were goddamn lucky to be in the place where this man sang the way he did, with such a distinct voice. Right. And it was there along with you in all these hardships, all these great moments in life, and the fact that we can listen back to the music, and now the guy's gone, and that does sting.
It hurts.
Although,
as I like to say, with the music, you're almost immortal.
Yeah.
Ozzy will always be with us in one way or shape or form.
Yeah.
He won't literally be with us, but like I haven't so much lost him as much as I just get less of him in a way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, the connection I always had to him ultimately was music. So the idea that still exists and I can always go back to it, which I'm sure like yourself, that's pretty much all I listened to all week. It was just
Black
Ozzy and Sabbath.
and Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah.
Which I'm glad you said that about the profound because, some of my favorite Ozzy quotes aren't necessarily as profound, but I remember, the fact that he was, the devil and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
One of my favorites was when they were like, the idea that your music conjures the devil. And he's like, I can barely conjure myself out of bed in the morning, let alone the devil.
Yeah.
But you're right. The profound, like, it's not to say I've never paid attention before. It's just to say you pay attention a little bit more. And as I'm listening to those Ozzy records, especially because with Sabbath, it's not to say he wasn't in the band, but we know Geezer's the main song lyricist for the most part.
Yeah.
But with Ozzy's solo stuff, like, man, there are some lyrics in there where you're just like, wow, like when like a killer of giants. If none of us believe in war, then what's all the fighting for? And you're just like, whoa, dude, these are some fucking deep lyrics you got going here.
Yeah,
Ozzy.
I mean, even with the Sabbath stuff,
Sure.
the delivery.
Because
you can have, a Ronnie James Dio or
I hear
Rob
you.
Halford kind of sing those lyrics.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But when you know that the guy that originally sang them was Ozzy, through the voice he had,
Sure.
It's a little bit. It means a little bit more.
Well, because it's such a unique voice too, like you said before. Like I remember seeing something. I think it was Richie Blackmore who said he has the most appealing rock voice I've ever heard in my life, which is kind of weird when you think about like really, because at first it's a little high and screechy, but you're like, man, it is comfort to me. The moment I hear it, I fall in love with that voice and his ability, as you said,
recognizable.
to emote. Oh, immediately, right? The moment you hear Ozzy, you never forget what that sounds like ever again. And his ability to emote through those songs are just, and you do. If it is weird, again, going back and listening to these songs where, again, we were told he's the Prince of Darkness, he's evil, and hey, Satan, and yet half of his songs are about love losing love, wanting peace.
Yep.
Well, the crazy train.
After Forever, is, about God.
Well,
and
the Sabbath stuff is always crazy when you're just like, the only time they talk about Satan is in a bad way or the romantic one of him willing to give it all up for a woman.
Yeah, I mean, because honestly, folks, how many people out there had their heart broken and didn't put on NIB or changes, right?
Yes.
Like you had your heart broken, you're going to put changes because you lost your woman.
Yes.
You loved her so, right?
I mean, it's just, and again, it's just so, like, I remember first time hearing changes and we're like, wait, that's still Ozzy? Like, that's a different sounding voice. That's not the Ozzy that I'm used to. You know what I mean? But yeah, just, I such a, and I think I'm also moved by the fact of just like, and obviously, being what I listen to, the friends that I have, my social media has been, just days of nothing but Ozzy love. And that's cool to see.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's not just the love that you're seeing, but also how diverse the love is.
Oh,
like, it's coming from so many corners that you're like, wow, I would have never even expected. I mean, I'm no fan, but fucking Pat Boone, because he's like, hey, we were neighbors, and I love this guy.
Yeah.
He was such a sweetheart. We had such great conversations. You know, he may be your Prince of Darkness, but he was my neighbor and a great guy.
Yeah.
And you just go like, wow, man. Like, to me, it just shows, once again, you can make him into whatever you want, but there was a real guy there. And the people who got to meet that got to see who that, and especially, and I will say, even as a fan, I know it's hard because you people go, oh, well, just because you're at a show or just because you bought his record. There was just something different about Ozzy where you really he did, look, his last words up on that stage were, I love you so much and I so appreciate what you guys.
felt that.
And he said that at every show.
Every show, yeah.
And you felt it every time. The one that's been going around over and over where he says, like, it's like, I'm there to see, I'd pay to see them just as much as they're paying to see me.
Yeah.
You know, he really fed off of that, and you could feel that as a fan, and he put that out just as much as you gave to him.
Totally.
And that was just so beautiful to watch. And it made it, you know, especially when you're younger and you're looking up to these kind of heroes, but he also loves that you love him. Like,
it's surreal too, because that it's weird putting it in this way, but that kind of connection,
yes,
I've only honestly really felt it at Ozzy shows, where I know I've gone to other shows and they thank you for being there, and you know, of course, right?
I know they mean it. I know they do.
I know they mean it.
Yes,
but when Ozzy says he loves you,
yes,
it's like, yeah, I love you too, bud.
Yeah,
you know, like,
that's right. That's the reciprocal part of it, right? You want to say it too. I love you too, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything, man. And you just, you know, again, all these little sweet things I saw recently, even before he passed. It was like 10 of the coolest things Ozzy ever did or something like that. His kids took him to this school. They were playing Crazy Train on xylophones.
On the xylophones. I saw that. Yeah.
Beautiful. And he's talking with the kids, and that one kid gets a moment, and he's just like, I just want to say, you're my favorite musician of all time. And Ozzy goes, oh, thank you. Give me a hug. I mean, I'm damn near weeping watching it. It's just so beautiful.
Well,
and he doesn't have to do any of that.
You know? Couple of anecdotes that popped up. One of them was obviously the one him meeting McCartney.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Yes.
He's a lifelong Beatles fan. And the fact that a person who is that much of a fan of something that that allowed him to get into music.
Absolutely.
Those types of moments, which I've had in my own small ways with other musicians.
Same.
It's such a core memory to make, and for him to be able to achieve that, especially so late in life, means the same as it would have meant for him if it was like a younger version of him, right?
And like, if you, in the video, he looks like a younger version of him meeting Paul. He looks like a fan meeting Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Not Ozzy walking in like, hey, Paul, how you been, baby? Blah, blah, blah. No. He looks like how you or I would look if we met Ozzy.
Yeah.
You know? And like, even that Black Sabbath reunion thing that just passed, I watched, they had a nice little video. Essentially, they bring them all into this room because they're going to take those group photos that they put out.
Right.
And you're watching James Hetfield, Tom Morello, all these badass, Phil Anselmo, and they all look like children in front of him who are just hey, Ozzy, how you doing, man? Oh, dude,
That's the weird thing. He had the ability to do that.
Oh,
right? I saw.
There's such a reverence for him.
I'm connected to a bunch of musicians on like the social medias and shit.
Same.
But I saw the guitarist for Dark Funeral, Chuck Mall. He put up a lot of tributes to Ozzy.
Right on.
Saying, like, I went to the first reunion show, like, this changed my life.
Wow.
Like, I was already playing music,
sure.
but seeing Black Sabbath play as Black Sabbath was such a life changer.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, and right, and I feel the same.
Yes.
Like, when I saw Black Sabbath the first few times, I was like, this is exactly what I would have wanted it to be had I been able to see them in the 70s.
Yes.
But decades after the fact, it's hitting me just as hard. Right? Just as hard. Just to hear those notes being strummed and ringing out, the bass lines, the thunderous drums,
absolutely,
and then Ozzy's melodic, if not shrill voice, kind of just carrying the pace. And you're singing along to every fucking word.
Every word.
Right? Yeah, what a loss, man.
It really is. It truly, and again, one of a kind. I remember I heard Zach Wilde say it a long time ago when Ozzy was obviously alive, and he's like, the phrase "living legend" gets said, but like Ozzy is literally a living legend.
Yeah.
Like, he has done legendary shit.
Yeah.
And my wife didn't know the Alamo story because I told her, yeah, even the Alamo. And she's like, what does that mean? I was like, oh, yeah, he pissed on the Alamo while he was wearing a
Pee-wee
dress.
lost his bike?
Yeah, right. Well, that he does now, actually.
Yeah. Well, now,
but it's just like she was just like, he did what? I was like, yeah. They used to steal all his clothes, so they figured he wouldn't go out naked. Well, he found his wife's dress.
Went out
And had to pee somewhere. It turned out it was the Alamo.
Yeah.
It was like lucky it wasn't 20 years prior. They probably would have killed him in the town square. But, it's just like the stories even become where it's like, I don't even know what's real and what's not. And probably a lot of them are real. I would imagine a majority of them are.
Everybody knows the sniffing the line of ants and all that stuff. And
the bats, the
bats. And all, like that all gets... it gets told and retold.
Absolutely.
And those mythologized and cemented into the lore of what makes him the rocker that he was, right?
Absolutely.
But then there's a lot of stuff too where he was a very charitable person, right? He did cared about kids,
Absolutely.
he cared about animals, for his family,
Sure.
So like losing a person that had so many facets to their life,
Amen,
and was able to influence music in so many ways.
Oh.
Not just the metal stuff.
No.
But like people pick up guitars because of Black Sabbath and Ozzy.
Absolutely.
Right? They get introduced to music, different music, because of what he put on at Ozfest.
Could not agree more.
Right? And it's he forged paths for so many people.
He took Metallica out when they were early on. He took Motley Crue out when they were early on. And one thing that he always said, he told that story with both of them, is like, they would, their opening band, and remember, they're super young. Metallica's out there playing, like doing sound check, playing Sabbath songs, hoping he might come out, And then finally their manager went and talked to Ozzy and like, hey, they would really, and Ozzy was like, fuck yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying like, hey, look, you're opening for me now. I might be opening for you later.
Yeah.
When you look at his history, as a child, he talks about, he got picked on a lot. His dyslexia kind of made it hard for school and so on and so forth. He seems like he's one of those few dudes who went, I did not like the way I was treated, so I am never going to repeat that to anyone else for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like so rare to find those people who don't go, well, now that I'm rich and famous, I can take it out on everybody that ever. He seemed exactly the opposite. And you're right. Like the animal charities that he did, like, who else gets a goodbye from Judas Priest and PETA when they die?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so diverse in everything he did. One of the last things I saw that he did was which almost is like, I don't know who the joke's on, but did some paintings with chimpanzees.
Oh, yes.
This?
Yeah.
And they auctioned them off.
Yep.
And then all the money, obviously, from this event goes to a bunch of like Parkinson's places and stuff like that. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, just a genuine dude. And then it's also that kind of reassuring thing where when they pass, you still don't hear a dirty word about them. Like everybody just has positive things to say about Ozzy, and it just kind of solidifies the idea. Like, sometimes you almost pick a hero that let you down, and this one thankfully did not. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even though he was the reluctant hero, as he said in his songs, but it was just like, no, man, look, I don't want to repeat many of your things. You're a cautionary tale also.
For sure. Liked there was a story he told in his, one of his biographies, the I Am Ozzy, where his father, I guess, after a few drinks, told him, John Osbourne, you're either going to do something that's going to change the world or go to prison. And at that time, he had already gone to jail for stealing the TV.
You got to do both.
Right? And he had the awareness to know, like, I don't want to continue down that path, which a lot of people don't, especially when they're young.
Absolutely.
And they have all the access to all the drugs and alcohol that he had at that time.
For sure.
I want to say that I would like to believe, because it's kind of evident that he did focus on music primarily, even if there were distractions.
I hear you. Yes.
But again, look at what you get. You get those Ozzy albums with Black Sabbath. Then you get Ozzy on his own, and it's up until just recently when he made the last album.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's still making. I mean, he was making them probably 3 or 4 years ago was his last one.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't stopping at all, and he's another one. I was saying to somebody too, like many of us use this phrase, and it's true for a lot of us, that rock and roll or music saved our lives.
Sure.
Ozzy is literally one of those people.
Proof of that.
He is proof. It saved his life. It changed him forever, you know? And without it, like, you do wonder, like, what if he hadn't heard the Beatles? What if he hadn't been able to afford the monitor and the microphone? What if he hadn't run into Tony Iommi? You know what I mean? Like, and who knows, And it's just like all the happenstance that is life in general. But it's just, like I said, I remember when Bowie died, despite being a huge fan of his, it was just to say, I'm glad I lived in a time when Bowie was alive because of the influence that he had. I get to say the same thing about Ozzy, but more importantly, also be a giant fan of his and see what he, like you said, the things that he's influenced and the people he's touched through his amazing life. I mean, let's be honest, that guy's lived 4 different lives in many ways.
Yeah. He's, I mean, not necessarily reinvented himself, but he reinvigorated himself.
And like you said, he allowed different facets of himself to be seen also. Not a lot of guys allow that, but more importantly, don't have the opportunity to do that, He
was also able to make fun of himself at times, right?
For sure.
Like, never really took himself all that seriously.
No. I mean, his shows were so fun. I remember, like Ozfest would always have the videos before he took the stage. And it'd be this like cuts where it made him look. I remember the one, I don't know why that one stands out, but it does. He's interviewing Princess Diana, obviously this is before she died, and he has this thing must be, 15-inch dildo. And he's like, is it true that you took all of this? And, it's obviously he's not interviewing her. And she's just like, yes, it was difficult, but I was able to get through it, And you're just like, what's going on here, I mean, the spray gun, throwing the buckets of water on the crowd. I mean, it's just, I heard Tony saying that, as amazing it was to play that last show and get to see him one last time, that the toughest part was, I'm used to playing with Ozzy, jumping around that stage and acting like a madman. He'd come over and make faces at me and Geezer and Bill to get us to laugh while we're playing. Right. And not getting that, he missed that a little bit, but he understood why.
Did you see he posted what the last text he was?
Oh, no, I did not.
It was something like, I'm really tired and I want to rest, something to that effect. Which was like the day before.
And that's, there is a part that, the words rest in peace are said all the time when people die. But there is this part where you do go, like, I hope he's found that peace. I really, you know what I mean? Like I know he was suffering, and I know, don't get me wrong, he's surrounded by love and people who care about him and on and on. But there is this thing like, hey, you've given us everything, man. Like, if you want to rest, you go right ahead and rest, Ozzy.
Yeah, I obviously I had my thoughts about the whole back to the beginning thing, but the fact that he held out until after that,
Yeah.
Like, that's, especially when you're dealing with the effects of Parkinson's and everything else that he had, the back surgery, the infections and all that stuff. Like, he was not a healthy person by any means. No. And, having even recent bouts with addiction and stuff like this, it's very difficult. I'm not going to pretend that I know him.
No. But I know what you mean.
We can only assume and guess what the effects of all this must have been on a person like Ozzy, especially somebody who wants to please as much as he did.
That's a big one right there. Because to your point, if I may, is he talked about he actually took off pain medication for the last week because he wanted to feel everything. So here he is in the middle of so much pain, but receiving so much love.
Yeah. So it's great that obviously the love came in, and there were tons of people that went to the show, to that last show, and tons more that saw it streamed and not streamed.
Yes.
I won't say
Sorry,
anything else. But it's all meant with, it's all good natured, I would say, because we all want to know that his last outing was one that he wanted as well.
I think, and we had an episode on that, and we both talked about, like, we were both kind of hemming and hawing about it. It weren't, if it was me, I'd be the guy in the room saying maybe this isn't the best way. But I have to be honest, like, now I kind of go, maybe it was for the best. I know it wasn't at 100%. It wasn't the greatest thing in the whole wide world, but so few artists get to go out on their own terms. And he got to, no matter what that meant, and in that way, I heard a guy say, too, it's like, it's so wonderful. I think about it like in sports terms too. How many times I've seen guys go into the Hall of Fame long after they're dead. And you go
Right.
like, look, their family gets to celebrate it, and it's great. It's a thing where it's adulation, it's acknowledgement.
Yeah.
But the person you're trying to acknowledge isn't even here for it, and that's a shame.
That's
to a
the
degree.
shame. Yeah, yeah.
The idea that he got to have that, and you do wonder, right? Like, how much of that was like you could have set the date at any time, right? It's like this weird, like, it's almost like because it gave him something to look forward to, he could push the body.
He
to
could
it,
save the strength for
right?
that. Yeah.
And
yeah.
when it was all over, he knew
you can just let go.
whatever happens now, it doesn't really matter.
Right, yeah.
You know, and just like in a way too, kind of like, good for you, Ozzy. Go out on you. Fuck yeah, dude.
It's poetic,
It is,
you know?
right? In a weird way, it really is. And it's just like, again, I don't know, man. I can wax poetic on him for the longest time. I really, really love his music. Going back through his discography again, along with Black Sabbath, God, I could sing every fucking word. I even went back and listened to Osmosis, which was the last one that I cut off from him. And I couldn't believe how much of the album I actually remembered and the lyrics. And
Dude,
and
the
there were a
song-
few songs where I was like, why did I get rid of this? This actually got some fucking kick-ass songs on there.
So the day he passed, you know, I was sad, obviously, and I could tell other people on my block were sad because I even posted about this.
Yes.
There were 3 houses
That's-
at one single time playing Black Sabbath or Ozzy
That's
Osbourne,
amazing. That's so cool.
and you know, then I put on No More Tears, which by the time. Actually, when the song "Time After Time" came on, I started getting misty-eyed.
You and me both, brother.
Right.
They were, dude, Mom, I'm coming home.
Well,
Time
I've
After-
always liked Mom, I'm
But
Coming
I'm just
Home.
saying there were a few even before where I was going like, I'm at work. I hope I can make it through this one. But yes, Time After Time came and it was
the two
like,
songs
oh
were
shit.
the 2 songs that started off for me were "No More Tears,"
Yeah.
which good luck, Ozzy,
Yeah.
and then "Time After Time,"
Yeah,
and I was
oh.
like, oh, there's something in my eye. I think
Yes.
somebody's cutting garlic or
Yes.
onions near me. But then Osmosis came on and "See You on the Other Side" came
Oh
on.
God, yes.
And so when that song came on, even my neighbors stopped playing music because I had one of my
get
speakers
out.
outside, and they were
Okay.
listening in.
Nice.
Right? Because I don't think they had heard that album.
Interesting.
And it was that's the one that just made me lose my
no,
shit.
that did,
you
dude.
know?
The one on that one that made me do it was the one I can't remember. Little boy, the one he's talking about his son.
Oh, Jack.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the song on it, but that one maybe.
But isn't it called something Jack?
I can't remember. I mean, you may be right. I'll be darned if I can remember the song, the name of it. I'm horrible with titles, but that's the one that that one. That's awesome though. That the idea of like again that communal thing, right? Like that's what social media was. I had not exactly the same, but an interesting one that happened to me. So I got in the car, and they had done this before when like Neil Peart from Rush died, and I thought, all right, KLOS, this is your moment.
Yeah.
Are you going to capture it? And they did.
Oh,
And they were playing nothing but Ozzy and Sabbath.
Nice.
So the whole ride home, I had this shit fucking cranked. The windows are down, and believe me, there was a few songs where like some guy called in. The guy was like, "Okay, I guess it's somewhat ironic, but okay, here we go. Never say die." You know, I'm stopped at a light, and they do their little commercial for it or whatever, and then it goes in, and then immediately goes into Crazy Train.
Nice. Hell yeah.
And a woman, I have the windows down. She has her windows down. She's right next to me to make a right-hand turn. And the part, I comes on.
Yeah.
She stops. She clearly recognizes it and turns around and looks at me. And I look at her, and she makes a sad face. And I look at her, and I just kind of nod and make a sad face back at her.
Nice.
And she just makes the right-hand turn. I just thought, I've never met this woman. She's never met me.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have no idea who we are. But she heard a millisecond of Crazy Train and went, you and I have a connection. I am so sad at what happened. Lady, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And we moved on with the rest of our day. But it's like, that's the impact this man has had on the world.
Yeah.
Two strangers, you know?
My another one of my neighbors, the one that lives to the front of me, he's the one that gifted me the Masters of Reality LP.
Nice.
So the day before he passed away, he and I were talking, and he had just told me, he was actually giving me book recommendations.
Right on.
And we were talking about something called Orange Sunshine, which if people are into like CIA/drug operations from the 60s and 70s, look it up. But he said, his mom had gone to California Jam in '74
Oh fuck.
to see fucking Black Sabbath, and that they were passing around this orange sunshine hashish.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so like, I'm like, you're fucking shitting me. Like, you waited a whole ass year and a half to tell me that your mom had gone to see Black Sabbath.
Fucking
Like,
Cal Jam.
5 fucking years after they came out.
How are you not introducing yourself with this story?
Yeah, exactly. Why is this not like an opener, right? Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
and then,
Jim, and here's a story.
yeah. So, the next day, he was one of the houses that was also
Right on.
playing Ozzy. And I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, again, you I know you get connections to people at
Sure.
music. That's always been one of the things
Absolutely.
with music. It'll connect people.
Absolutely.
But when you consider that the connection here, especially within my little radius of neighbors, you have 70-year-old ex-cholos, right? A 30-something-year-old dude in front of me, and then myself, I'm in my late 40s.
Right.
And we all are like, yes, we're all sad because this one man and his voice are no longer with us.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Just
awesome.
what an impact you had on the world, man. Like, if there's any, death is not something that I look forward to in any way, shape, or form. It scares the hell out of me. I like the ability to exist. But one of the things that I'm most jealous of people like, and I use that word relatively, but like an Ozzy or anybody else, is like, technically Ozzy never dies.
Yeah.
He has this thing. He's immortal. He'll live on forever.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll never be as big as he is, but he will never actually die. And it's because he's recorded this music that has impacted so many lives that, by the way, get then passed down to the lives underneath. My kids know who Ozzy is because Dad's played them in the car.
Yeah.
They know who Black Sabbath is because Dad's played them in the car.
My 6-year-old nephew
There you
knows
go.
Black Sabbath.
There you
'cause,
go.
He's played it in at the house.
So there's, in your house alone, there's 3 generations
Oh,
of
yes.
people who know Sabbath
Yes.
or Ozzy in
Yep.
one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like that, to have any kind of an impact on that, and then especially in 2 things. One, a thing that means so much to me, and I know means so much to you, music.
Yep.
But on top of it, heavy metal, a genre we both very much love.
Yeah.
To have that kind of an impact is just so rare, and it's just so awesome to see. And again, huge loss to so many people in so many ways. And again, I'd be lying. Again, his last few albums I haven't paid attention to, but I don't need to. I saw Blizzard of Oz. I got Diary of a Madman.
Yeah.
Who cares? These are just classic albums. These are like foundational metal records that will, that there's still going to be people picking up Diary of a Madman and going, what the hell?
Oh yeah, I mean, people are gonna listen to Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley and think, wow, man, how could people back in those days make music this fucking great, right?
The way we did with Sabbath, right?
The way we did with
It
Sabbath,
was like,
yeah.
wait, this came out when?
Yeah.
No, just
So
amazing guy.
for me, if I may,
Well, please.
a big reason why this hit me the way it did, kind of the same with Lemmy from Motorhead.
I got you.
I'm a huge Motorhead fan. This music had been the soundtrack to a lot of moments when, I didn't have as many triumphs as I did hardships.
I feel you.
Right? So knowing that this music was some of the same stuff that my dad listened to through his own hardships,
Sure.
right? And that connected us in a weird way. And it made him want to play music, but it actually influenced me to the point where I did play music.
Right on.
Right? And then throughout my entire life, any friendship that I made, it was the music of Black Sabbath
Sure.
and Ozzy
Oh,
Osbourne
right,
that was
right.
always there.
Right.
Like, there were, of course, other
No.
other musicians and stuff like that. But like, even in my punk band, we covered Electric Funeral. In the black metal band, we tried covering like NIB and
Gotcha.
like shit like that. So
Gotcha.
like, every iteration of every band that I've ever been in, we tried doing something. And I know most of those people maybe did it to kind of appease my whole like, hey, let's do this Ozzy's artist fucking Black Sabbath song. And for that, I am grateful.
Sure.
I'm also much more grateful for the fact that this man who I would never meet, I never got to shake his hand, unfortunately, but who went through his own hardships and knew kind of what suffering was, and made people happy just by the whole sheer effort of his own music.
Yeah.
Right. That's something that I'm not gonna anytime soon forget and
for
relinquish.
sure.
You know, because I know after people die, sometimes we tend to forget the people that we looked up to or we listened to and whatnot.
Yeah.
But Ozzy is one of those that it's very hard to ignore his presence even after death.
Oh,
you know,
because it still resonates.
Yeah.
In every, I mean, yes, I 100% hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So John Michael Osbourne, thank you very much for the music.
You very much.
And maybe we'll see each other one day soon.
Yeah.
All right. Catch you guys soon.
Later.
Howdy, folks. Thank you so much for spending time with us here at the rehearsal room. If you've got any recommendations you'd like for us to check out, whether it's a band, a movie, or anything else you think we'd be interested in, you can write to us at therehearsalroompod@gmail.com, all one word. We're also over on Instagram or Facebook, or even YouTube. You can also find us on any of the popular platforms for podcasts. And if you happen to know anybody that would be interested in any of the subjects we're talking about, please make sure to refer this show over to them. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to us, and we'll catch you soon.